You're walking down the beach, filming the seascape, when suddenly your camera glimpses a man surfacing from under the water. You get anxious but don't quite understand why. The very next moment, a shark's fin appears near the man. The world saw what happened next thanks to a tourist with a camera. In this video, I'll present the top craziest stories that were accidentally caught on camera, making millions of people shudder. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Extraordinary events like these can happen in any corner of the world, from Tuvalu to the Comoros Islands. And if, like me, you're hearing these names for the first time, don't rush to Google them. Instead, stick around to hear about the sponsor of this video, MOVA globes. These globes spin without wires or batteries. Their movement is powered by a hidden system of magnets and natural light. On movaglobes.com, you can choose from over 40 designs in various styles. And it's not just about Earth globes, but also famous works of art and celestial objects brought to life with NASA graphics. With the promo code ECHOES, you'll get 10% off your order. So click the link in the description. And now, let me tell you about the most chilling events ever captured on camera. A rare tiger shark attack happened in June of 2023 in Hurghada, Egypt. At first, beachgoers didn't understand what had happened, but mere seconds later, they were panicking and trying to get out of the water. A 23-year-old Russian tourist, Vladimir Popov, wasn't fated to make it though. The shark attacked the man repeatedly before eventually pulling him under the surface. Although a Coast Guard arrived to help in just 7 seconds, he was unable to do anything. Popov's family wasn't by the victim's side at the time, but they saw the horrifying final seconds of Vladimir's life. Later, the bloodthirsty shark was caught, and dozens of people came to see it. Yet treating this like some innocent fun occasion can make you lose discretion and pay for it dearly. 71-year-old Australian businessman Roger John Hussey was most likely always serious and work-oriented. However, he also knew how to have fun. In July of 2017, he and his family went on a vacation on the beach of the Thai island of Phuket. Hussey decided to try parachuting. Instead of dangerous skydiving, he went for parasailing. It's a flight under a canopy wing connected to a boat with a long rope. Hussey's wife started filming him when he was still preparing for the flight since he was excited like a teenager. Finally, after a quick run-up, the tandem of Hussey and an instructor was floating in the air. However, something went wrong from the very start. The Thai instructor rose over Hussey's head, and something like a struggle ensued between them for a few seconds. Then, Hussey fell into the sea from a height of over 30 meters. The witnesses quickly got him to the shore, but the man complained of being unable to breathe. Hussey was taken to the hospital, where he later died. The police detained the people who'd organized parasailing on the beach. The organizers had violated a few safety rules, but were adamant that Hussey had detached himself after panicking. Even suicide and murder weren't ruled out in the investigation of this case. However, it's on the police to investigate crime, and the only thing we as individuals can do is take care of our own safety, especially if we take to the sky. There's a person who's learned this lesson well, a composer from Holland, Naren Melkumyan. Apart from music, she was also into piloting. However, it's not just another hobby. Getting a monoplane like this one into the air takes training and certification, and it's also incredibly complex. Although Naren's videos look fun, beautiful, and effortless, she knows that's not the case. Only in the summer of 2024 did she dare to share a shocking video from a few years before. It was the day's second training flight, and it started as usual. Naren took her extra 330LX to the runway and got it to fly in 9 seconds. She'd planned to practice her aerobatics exercises, which are the most dangerous and complex air stunts. However, when Naren tilted the plane to one side and then sharply to the other, the vehicle's canopy opened. A strong air current hit the woman's face and chest, obstructing her breathing and leaving her with virtually no way to open her eyes. She had neither a helmet nor even protective goggles. Naren was frantically clutching at the yoke, trying to keep the plane in the air, while her face was being ravaged by the wind, her eyes hurting like someone was blowing sand in them. The air pressure was so intense that the woman couldn't even keep her head upright. Through the relentless noise, Naren heard her instructors screaming, telling her to just keep flying. A little over a minute into the most disastrous flight of her life, the woman felt her extra's chassis touch the concrete. Only when Naren turned on the power in her motionless plane did she realize she'd just landed it by some miracle, having gone virtually blind. Luckily, the woman's eyesight was back almost intact in almost 28 hours. Although Noreen had shown all of her piloting prowess, she was forced to admit her mistakes. If she had checked her plane more rigorously before the flight, or at least put on her goggles, she wouldn't have had to perform survival miracles mid-air. All in all, she was lucky that her plane didn't fail after a serious mistake. In 2023, a Mexican pilot didn't have such luck. 22-year-old Luis Angel from San Pedro found a way of making money off a local couple. He was supposed to fly his old Piper aircraft over a gender reveal party, emitting smoke in the corresponding color, blue if the couple was expecting a boy, or pink if they were expecting a girl. So, at a designated time, Luis flew over the party, letting out a stream of pink smoke. The overjoyed guests started screaming from happiness, and the couple locked their arms in a loving embrace. The footage from a camera looked like a moment of pure bliss. However, you might have noticed something else. A second before the plane disappeared from the frame, its wing fell off. Actually, though, the camera kept following the plane and filmed it literally falling apart mid-air. The guests screamed because they were congratulating the happy parents-to-be. The video author turned the camera back to the couple as if nothing had happened. The damaged plane with Luis Angel still inside it fell somewhere nearby. Yet, some of the party guests eventually noticed the Piper had broken down and decided to call the police. Soon, the officers found the plane wreckage, where they discovered Luis Angel in the debris. He was severely injured and crushed in the damaged cockpit. The pilot was rescued and taken to the hospital, but the paramedics were unable to help him. Luis Angel died. The cause of the tragedy is still unclear. However, it's been noted that the plane got damaged right after a confetti cannon was fired on the ground. On the other hand, flights are closely correlated with the risk of falling from a height. On the other hand, to fall, you don't need to be a pilot or even to be on a plane. On July 12, 2023, a young father named Spencer Baker went to work. He arrived at the Ambassador Bridge connecting Detroit in the USA and Windsor in Canada. That day, he was part of the team replacing the old cables on the bridge. Baker started working and calmly kept at it until 3:56 p.m. Instead of going to lunch, though, the man suddenly fell from the 45-meter-tall bridge. Baker was frantically thrashing about in the water, and his only thought was that he'd never see his loved ones again.
This is it, man. My life's over. I'm never going to get to see my daughter again. My fiancé.
A few surveillance cameras near the bridge caught the moment of his fall. Luckily, though, other people also noticed him. In less than a minute, a passerby called the employees of a sea delivery service for help. A few seconds later, the local fishermen were already getting in a boat to get Baker out of the water. After being taken aboard, the man couldn't understand where he was and why he was all wet and covered in bruises. It's hard to believe, but just 7 minutes after his fall, Baker was already back on the ground, where the paramedics were already waiting, ready to take him to the hospital. There, it became clear that Baker had broken almost all of his ribs on the right side, as well as his left arm and right cheekbone. In addition, his spleen had burst, and his entire body was covered in scarlet bruises. However, the doctors said these injuries were far from the worst ones you could get from a fall like that. Eventually, the eyewitnesses' instant reaction and the medics' excellent work saved Baker's life. But sometimes the tiniest careless mistake on the part of a worker can lead to not just his death, but also the demise of countless other innocent people. Teodulo Elias Vides owned a bus company, had the necessary license, and sent his vehicles on regular technical checkups. The only problem was that he had a single old bus, built back in 1996, which he drove himself. Vides was taking passengers from Los Angeles to a casino near a water body called the Salton Sea. On October 23, 2016, he was on his usual route, leaving the passengers at the destination point around an hour before midnight and taking them back at 4 a.m. The bus was going fast, so it covered over a third of the way in just an hour and 20 minutes, reaching Palm Springs. That early in the morning, none of the passengers probably noticed Vides speeding, reaching 127 kilometers per hour and driving straight into a truck. None of the drivers reacted in time, and the vehicles crashed. When firefighters arrived at the scene, they saw that the front of the bus was 4.5 meters deep in the giant trailer. Some passengers were already out of the damaged bus, and the rescue squad helped the rest. 31 people were injured. When the firefighters finally got to the damaged part of the bus, it became clear that no one would have managed to survive there. 12 passengers in the front seats, as well as Vides himself, had died. An investigation showed that Bruce Guilford, the truck driver, had stopped due to road construction. However, when the traffic resumed, the man didn't move since he'd simply fallen asleep due to exhaustion. At the moment of the crash, he only felt a slight shake and hit his arm. Moreover, Vides, the bus driver, had also slept very little in the days before the tragic drive. He didn't even pull the brake before hitting the enormous trailer. In the end, Guilford pled guilty and spent 4 years behind bars. Yet, apart from driver mistakes, something else can endanger people on the road. In March of 2015, a group of tourists took their places on a bus to go on a tour of the Brazilian state of Pará. It's home to the delta of the world's most voluminous river, the Amazon. Even if the tourists hadn't planned to see the river specifically, they'd still bump into at least one of its tributaries on their way. They'd see all this, literally surrounded by the wild jungle. So the nature outside the bus windows was just as dangerous as it was beautiful. The rainy season in Brazil almost always turns into a disaster. However, it's almost over in March, so no one expected what would come in the way of the tourists. An unexpected flood had washed away the road, and the bus fell into a sinkhole that appeared right in the middle of the roadway. The rapid torrent of bright yellow water carried the 10-meter-long bus away like a toy, dragged it under the intact part of the dirt road, and spat it out on the other side. No one could have countered the forces of nature. The only way to have averted the disaster would have been to recognize the danger in time and evacuate the passengers from the bus before it was overtaken by the elements. Yet, sadly, it's not always possible. On March 1st, 2013, Jeff Bush said goodnight to his brother Jeremy and his partner Rachel and went to sleep. It happened in the small suburb of Seffner, Florida. There were no rivers to bring on a flood, no mountains to trigger an avalanche, no ocean to cause tsunamis. Nothing. Yet suddenly, Jeremy and Rachel were shaken by a terrifying scream coming from the neighboring room. It was Jeff. The couple immediately rushed to him, but after opening his bedroom door, they saw no one there. Instead of a bed, there was a giant gaping hole that had swallowed Jeff. Jeremy jumped headfirst into the cavern, which was almost 6 meters deep, but he failed to find his brother. He himself was taken out by rescuers who had also failed to find Jeff's body. Moreover, it was impossible to stay in the house because of foundation subsidence. So they decided to demolish the building and fill the sinkhole. Jeff was forever gone without a trace, and a memorial plaque with his name was installed in the yard under which he died. This tragic story seemed to be over when suddenly the hole opened again. It was filled with stones again and then sealed with concrete. Yet, for Jeremy Bush, it was another reminder about the death of his brother, who'd become the first known victim of sinkholes in the U.S. The only thing his family wanted was peace for themselves and Jeff's remains. Exactly 10 years later, though, the hole opened for the 3rd time. It's a scarily common phenomenon in Florida. In 2017, the Rodriguez family miraculously managed to get out of their house when a hole appeared under it in mere seconds. This happened in a Florida settlement called Land O'Lakes. The sinkhole, full of water, dirt, and debris, widened to 76 meters and reached a depth of 15 meters. The Rodriguez family only managed to survive because the hole appeared in the daytime and not at night when they were peacefully sleeping in their beds. Sometimes it seems that life before radio, television, and, to an even greater extent, the internet wasn't as scary. Even if people saw some disasters, they saw only those that happened nearby. You and I, on the other hand, are living now, so it's worth it to use the blessings of civilization and watch spooky but exciting videos on my channel.